Hey everyone, J-Rob Plays here, and sadly today I would rather be playing Destiny 2, but instead here I am making a video on my astonishment on how Bungie can just ruin things. Because I was not prepared for this. Like, I know that I've played this game a long time, right? You play the game for a decade, you sit around a certain group of people, you get accustomed to these new developers and their way of thinking, and you think, okay, maybe they're finally getting it. They say the same things over and over again, and then they still find a way to deliver some of the worst product, or at least deliver the product in the worst way possible, I guess is the better way to say it. Because the reveal itself showed some things that were disappointing. But today's launch, as you noticed if you've seen my other video, PSA video about the grind being broken, is completely ruining everything. Because if you want to play Reclaim and you want to take that time, it's not rewarding. There's chests out there that you get that spawn randomly. They just give you Glimmer, for example. There's a bunch of really hard to kill enemies, and they killed Brawn. Brawn used to be a modifier that would allow you to get health back when you kill enemies, and now they adjusted Brawn for whatever reason. I don't know why they would nerf it, but they adjusted it to where now it drops wells, so it's basically like you're in the Nether. But the difference is, with the Nether, we had upgrades where the wells would give us more health back, and these wells are pathetic by comparison. So when you choose Brawn, you choose that to raise your score so that you can get B plus to A, but then you are now hurting yourself because your regen is no longer there, and you will have to go pick up a well, and that little light well on the ground doesn't do hardly any healing. So the reclaim activity is miserable for somebody for trying to run it solo. I mean, I was fine. I didn't die, really. It's just that I was always low health, and I'm always having to constantly pop my class ability and stuff. And yes, that kind of helped with some of the intensity, but it was just more annoying. And at the end, I got like a tier 3 and a tier 4 reward, and I'm 450 power. So, very disappointing. And that was with, I think, like an A score as well. And so I was concerned because I was like, why am I only getting like a +1 to my power level, or a +2 in that case? I think I got lucky and got 1 +2. And so I started doing solo again because I was like, let me go do the solo ops. And the solo ops are broken right now, as you've seen in my video, where even if you get A+, you only get a +1 power. So originally they were going to give us a power grind from 400 to 500 that was similar to how it was before, from 400 to 450, meaning you would get +3 power every time you completed, and that would drop wherever slot, and you could just keep going over and over again, and you would climb at your +3 power until you get to 500. And then at 500 they had a change that was really helpful, where no matter what, your activity would get you +1 power, and then eventually you would get a prime with +3. So that would really slow down that grind between 500 to 550 grind, sorry. And so that 500 to 550 grind didn't seem so bad, because you're like, great, now I don't have to worry about, running 20 times, somewhere in that range to get my +3, and I just get the only +3, and I'm there forever in the same activity. Now I can just kind of grind, and I'm going to get 1 and 1 and 1. Well, the problem now is that everybody from 450 to 550 is in that pinnacle grind. And I don't know, like I said in the other video, I haven't seen any feedback yet from people who are 300 or 350, if they're also stuck now at 300 and 350 with the +1 power grind, because that can't be intentional. They basically applied the pinnacle grind numbers all the way through every single activity. So fire team ops, pinnacle ops, crucible ops, I checked them all. They're all the same. It's only +1 power no matter what you do. So it's a waste of time to even play the game right now, because if you spend hours playing the game, you're going to spend hours grinding 1 power at a time, and then tomorrow they might have it fixed, wasting the hours that you had, because you could have spent half that time tomorrow. You could have done something with the rest of your day, got a chore done, played a different game. Like, I may just go back to playing Destiny Rising in the meantime, because that's actually giving meaningful rewards for my time right now at the moment by comparison. So into the reveal, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the new game mode that they're releasing with Renegades. So this activity is called the Lawless Frontier, and in the Lawless Frontier, the theory behind this, or the way that it's supposed to work, is you're going to this destination, you're going to choose a job or a mission by one of the factions, you're going to drop in, and you're going to collect things. We'll call them supplies, right? Just so you know where I'm going with this. And if you see my video, you know exactly where I'm going with this. If you see my last video, then you're going to gather those supplies within a certain time limit. Then you're going to call in a dropship that looks a lot like a pelican, and then you're going to fight a horde of enemies as they approach you, and you're going to try to survive until the dropship opens up so you can jump into the dropship and extract your supplies. Now, if this sounds familiar to you and you're like, yeah, I feel like I've done this before, it's probably because a lot of you have. Helldivers was a huge game when it first came out, and nearly everybody played it. All the content creators pretty much played it. It was all over the place, and it was a lot of fun. I played it with my friends. We had a good time. But I've played it a lot, and I'm pretty much all Helldivered out. I even have a lot of Helldiver videos on my channel from back when it first released, just kind of going over some of the favorite builds and stuff against the machines. And then when you're fighting the Terminids, same thing. The new stuff that's coming out looks really cool. Like there's Hive Lords now, Terminid Tunnels. I just haven't had the time to go and play the game. But the same thing is like if that was my main game, I would have made the time. I wouldn't have been playing Destiny or Destiny Rising, which now Destiny Rising is quickly becoming one of my favorite games just because of how much it's like Destiny 1. It feels a lot like Destiny 1, and it's more Destiny universe than Destiny 2 is right now, which is crazy because it's an Eddie's game. I played Once Human. I played a lot of Once Human. It was really good, really fun, really rewarding for what it was. They just didn't update it enough, fast enough, and so that's why I ended up getting into Destiny, Edge of Fate, and all that again. Now, with this one, you're going to be picking things that are like stratagems. You're going to be able to drop in an AT-AT from the footage, which is really cool because it's a Star Wars collaboration. So you've got your lightsabers, you've got your blasters, which looks like an exotic. Both of them look to be exotic. And then you've got your vehicles. But in that vehicle change, apparently those vehicles may be able to jump. They screwed up today skimmers, and they screwed up sparrows because it used to be on mouse and keyboard, you would hit spacebar to dismount. Now spacebar is jump, which used to be shift. And so when I'm driving around and I'm trying to dismount in the middle of combat, I get stuck jumping because I'm here like spamming my spacebar to dismount because there's a delay that sticks you onto your sparrow or your skimmer, and now it's interact, so it's like totally off. And when you go back to Destiny Rising, it's space again. So it's like now like I'm going to be stuck back and forth where Destiny Rising feels more like Destiny than Destiny 2 does. Like that was a dumb change. Like why not just use the shift button to jump for those vehicles than the space bar? Like it just doesn't make any sense. And I haven't even tried to mess with the keybinds because I was so frustrated with the broken power grind that's going on right now, because again the power grind is broken, so why play the game? Now going back to the Lawless Frontiers, you're picking your stratagems, right, quote unquote stratagems. You're going to choose those things, drop in, and then now they have this other mode that's like Gambit, but it's like one person coming in against three, just like an invader. So they're just not innovating at all. It could have been a 3v3 brawl, that would have been a little bit more interesting, but it's a 1v3 thing. And I guess the 1v3, the one player has an advantage in some way that tries to even the score, but at a certain point, at a certain skill level, the three players are going to wreck the one player for the most part, unless that one player is just really powerful when they come in, or they, like it looks like they drop in with a machine like a tank or an AT-AT brig type thing, and we don't even know how strong those things are going to be. If they could be burnt down, and then you're screwed as the one player, right? They also talk about how people are going to be able to opt out of it, and the rewards are going to be higher for the people that are opting into this type of mode, but who's going to really opt into that if it's frustrating to play at the upper band? You're just going to opt out, and then it's going to be sucky for matchmaking. It's just going to be faster to just go play the normal mode by yourself with your friends, right? Just with your fire team, or matchmake with a random fire team, or pick them up in Fire Team Finder. Like again, I don't understand the idea of having a mode like that with higher rewards, but then you have an opt out. There should be two different modes. There should be the PvP mode, and there should be the PvPvE mode, and that PvPvE mode should have things that are unique and only available in that mode, and that's specifically its own thing, right? The double cross should be its own thing, not like we're taking Lawless Frontier and you're opting into the double cross option, however they're trying to play that. So again, very disappointing. The axe looks disappointing. It might be really good, but the axe looks disappointing. We were all trying to figure out if it was just going to be an artifact. I thought it was just going to be an artifact. It's going to be really powerful. Apparently it's a heavy that you can then take in that doesn't have a guard feature, but it's supposed to be more offensively strong. So I don't know how that's going to square when you're talking about some of the modifiers and things you need to run for the higher end. You're going to run in there with something that doesn't have guard ability as a heavy, and you're going to get up and close and personal. There may be some nice builds, but then I'm sure they're going to get nerfed shortly if we can two-shot things with the axe when it's all powered up. So it's just kind of this treadmill again that everybody keeps talking about, the same treadmill of, you know, we're going to have something that's going to be kind of cool in one specific niche thing, and then when it's too powerful, they're going to nerf it, and then it's just going to be useless again. And the only thing we'll be still using is the laser swords, right? The lightsabers, they don't want to call them lightsabers. They're going to, I think they call them Praxic sabers or something like that for the Praxic Order. And another thing that I'm sure a lot of Star Wars fans might be upset about is the fact that they have the main character wielding a yellow saber, which is reminiscent of Rey, and a lot of people disliked Rey's character in the new Star Wars movies. So they could have given her any other color lightsaber. And I mean, if they were going to piss off Star Wars fans, they could have given her a purple lightsaber and have her go Mace Windu style. And I don't know if this is Honor that we're looking at, because she's a major character in the past. She was also involved in the whole situation when you got to choose a side between like the Drifter and the Vanguard, and Shin Malphur was involved in that. And there was some theories that he might be back as this in this as well, because he kind of fits the motif. And so if it was Shin Malphur and Honor, and Shin turned to the dark side, and that's Shin Malphur with the red lightsaber, that would be kind of a cool story. Like I admit that would be a nice little bow tie on Shin Malphur's story, especially because he started off killing a Dredgen that used to be Reza Lazir, that became a Dredgen and became one of the most feared people with Thorn, and that was the Thorn Last Word duel. And for him then to turn to the dark side and become kind of like a Revan character from Star Wars, that's I think who they're kind of trying to straddle. They're trying to make their own Revan, because if you notice, they have parallels and everything. Like the desert obviously is Tatooine. There's Sarlacc pits. There's the floating barges, like Jabba the Hutt's floating barge, looking stuff for the Cabal. They have the bar in Tatooine. They have Vex that are like acting on their own now, like people. Like I already know how to feel about that, because the Vex are supposed to be this one mind, and yes, I know that Maya took them and they had their individuality, but they're kind of like being silly now. Like I don't know, it's just hard to take the Vex serious now as a serious threat when they're now these little kind of like iRobot slash Wallies walking around basically, gambling and, stealing and creating crime and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's just silly now. I think that's not a very fitting end to the story of the Vex, and the way that things are going with Maya and all that. Again, the story pacing, it was good for Edge of Fate. I liked Edge of Fate. The pacing wasn't perfect, but the story itself was good. This story, I'm a little scared about, because it doesn't seem like they've done a good job of making a very serious story. It seems like it's going to be very campy, and it's not going to keep that same spirit of the heaviness of the original Star Wars. Like, yes, the Star Wars was silly in some ways, but the story itself was still kind of heavy for its time. Like in its bubble back in the day, like that was like a very interesting story, to have the son go up against the father, and the fate of the universe is against it. And then the father, obviously, in the end, saves the son, and there's retribution, and the force is balanced for a time until Disney decided they wanted more money and they wanted to ruin the franchise, right? It's going to be a really testy subject, because there's two sides of this Star Wars thing that play Destiny. There's the original Star Wars fans that grew up enjoying the original trilogy, and there's even like a subset of that enjoy the prequels. And the prequels are okay, but at the time, the original trilogy were still head and shoulders above the prequels. But people that grew up on the prequels are going to favor them. But then you have these newer fans, and I don't want to call them like new fans, like NU fans, because I don't want to be too disrespectful to somebody who likes the action and the artistry in the new Star Wars, because they visually do look good in some instances, but the stories are so disjointed, and the way that the directors were hired and fired and all of that, like, just made for a really bad trilogy. And the way that they shoehorned in the Emperor with like no real backstory, just like, oh hey, by the way, he's alive this whole time, hey, just it was done really poorly. And there was a chance to save it, and there was these rumors going around that George Lucas got involved, and there was a really good cut and people liked it, but Bob Iger got involved, and he shut that down. And so now here we are with this fractured fan base of people who see the new stuff as blasphemy to the old stuff, people who enjoy the old stuff, people who enjoy the prequels, people who really enjoy the expanded universe, which still gets left alone. Like a lot of these good expanded universe Star Wars games, like Knights of the Old Republic, the Star Wars MMO that was out there, there's a lot of good story out there that is thrown away as not canon because it's moved into the expanded universe. And so it's just, again, it's a really touchy subject. At first I was kind of hyped for the Star Wars to be involved, but now looking at the narrative and stuff, I'm kind of a little worried about the parallels that they drew and how they're so copying the Star Wars story, and if this is going to play out like one of the episodes. You know what I mean? If they're going to really tie to the story beats, to a lot of the same story beats and the same exact type of story as a Star Wars story, which has a lot of tropes from stories before it. So it's like a hero story, and hero stories always follow the same tropes. So without get too ranty about that, though. So like some of the positive things that they mentioned in the upcoming Renegades update, obviously not Ash and Iron. Unfortunately for Ash and Iron, it's probably too little too late. This one's probably cooked just because of how poor it dropped, how small the plague lands are. It's just like 3 areas, and you just go back and forth, kill a bunch of stuff, open 2 chests that are like little war machine chests, and that's it for right now. So for Ash and Iron, we just have to pray that Bungie really cooks with the events that are coming for the winter events, and those things bring fun activities that are not the Plagueland thing, because I didn't particularly enjoy Reclaim more than anything else. Reclaim felt like playing everything else. Like the conquests are more fun than Reclaim, for example, and so I would rather run the conquests than Reclaim, and they want us to run Reclaim over and over again, but I'm just not that interested, unfortunately. Now, when we talk about the future, though, they are going to rework the way things drop. So everything is going to drop at tier 3 and up, which is helpful for people in the lower band. For me, I'm already at 450, so I'm only interested and I'm only looking at tier 5s. How am I going to get these new tier 5s? They talk about doing the bonus engram rework on that, so where bonus engrams are more rewarding in the original power grind, and I hope that they make it to where the bonus engrams drop also +3 like they're supposed to, so that way you can kind of run around collecting the bonus engrams like we were doing before, but they're like never going to drop below that, and that they're more guaranteed to drop. Like the bonus itself wouldn't always drop, so this way the bonus does always drop on top of the bonus engrams. There's a featured bonus plus the bonus engram. And speaking of Conquest 2, they mentioned, Dylan mentions talking about that feeling of on Tuesday, let's jump into raid night, or if it's on the weekend for teams, going through and doing some of the additional activities. They're going to have a weekly lockout on difficult content. So when you're doing the Grandmaster level content, you should be able to do a lot of these conquests for that higher tier drop. Like you're going to get that one good loot drop for the week, which is still better than once for the season, but it's not enough, not like a GM replayable GM, so I hope they have something else in the works there and they give us a little bit more information going forward. They're going to have to be really open and honest about what to expect if they want people to actually show up for Renegades. I foresee there's not a lot of pre-orders going out right now with the new Renegade stuff, with the new ship and all of that they were promising us. For people who had pre-ordered already. Like the Vanguard order sounds good. Like when you're looking at the screen that they have where it shows like on the left, you have like bounties essentially on the left side, and those bounties will level you up to where you're getting better engram rewards, and apparently according to them you can level up to some exotic level, but I'm not sure how good that is because the exotics right now are underpowered because they can't drop with the higher base power. So yes, if I get a higher thing to exotic and I get an exotic to drop now and I'm getting exotics to drop now, I may have wanted to be tier 5 legendary underneath that, because then I could get more tier 5 legendaries, which are more valuable than currently the exotics. So there's some issues there that they didn't address or they didn't speak to. Hopefully they fix that as well, and that's something that they'll talk to further in more releases. But right now, the way that they look for the seasonal hub, yes, it looks cool. Yes, the idea behind it is great, but it still isn't like a good enough punch to be like, oh, this is something that I'm going to want to engage with regularly. This is kind of more like something that you're going to do on the side if the rewards are not specifically farmable and if they're not targeted farmable, right? Because if you're going to put a lot of time into this really long weekly reward bar, I should be able to go into the engram and pick the reward that I want, if not pick the stats that I want or like the trait that I want. You know, like if I want a certain combination of like a barrel mag, even having like a special intrinsic trait for items that you can get only through this, you know, weekly thing would be kind of cool if there was like a special class of weapons with their own intrinsic that's part of this. That would be something that you could then say, okay, well, this is a reason to engage because we're trying to get those specific weapons that are good in PvE or PvP. But right now, as it stands, it just looks like an extra bounty system. Like they brought bounties back and stuck them on the side. And again, I have to see it in action, so it's way too early to call on that. So back onto more positive things that they mentioned. In Renegades, they're going to have all exotic weapons and armor as featured gear. So no more having to stick to a specific set of featured lists. You can just basically run whatever you want. And the lead even mentioned that prismatic class items are included in this. So that's another good change. You can also enhance your weapons. So everything obviously dropping at tier 3. If you like what you have, barrel mag and everything, and both 2 columns of traits, then you're going to want to say, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to invest these currency, whatever this new currency is, and tier it up. Now, I wonder how that's going to work on the top end when you're taking a tier 3 to a tier 4 to a tier 5 and you're gaining 2 extra, weapon traits. Are you going to just get random ones? Or are you going to be able to pick? Hopefully you can pick, because if I'm investing all this money into this one thing when I could just level up and go get a drop randomly with better combinations, I should be able to choose my traits like a crafting system, basically, as I'm going to make sure that it's going from the tier 4 to the tier 5 and getting that additional, or surely tier 3 to tier 4 and getting that additional trait slot. And then, of course, tier 4 to tier 5 is just having everything enhanced, including the intrinsic trait. They're going to also get rid of the gear score bonus for featured gear so that all gear is on the same level. So now we're not having to run through hoops to wear specific sets to get the better gear score to get the actual items to drop at +3, which again, the game is broken. I just can't believe the game's broken, only dropping +1. Hopefully that is not going to happen again on Renegade launch. Wouldn't that be crazy if they reverted something and then everything was +1 while you were playing the game the whole time? That would be insane. More vault space, but they didn't give us a specific number, which was frustrating. I wish they would have told us exactly how many slots so that way we can prepare ourselves. And then they mentioned that they're going to pause like non-critical nerfs and balance changes, and so that tells me that they are basically just putting themselves in a holding pattern because whoever's making the decisions is doing such a poor job that they can't trust people to even do like just regular balance changes. They're only going to be doing it if it's like an outlier, it's something that would ruin the raid race, for example, or something that's like like a 2-shotting or 1-shotting stuff. Then they'll come out and they'll hammer those down. But for the most part, they're not going to make those other changes like the stronghold changes and some of the exotics changes that they thought were getting exotics more in line. They're going to leave those alone for the most part, according to them. We still can't trust it, but what they're saying is they're going to leave those alone and they're going to focus on more important things that are better priority, and they're going to have a better channel of getting the nerfs up to upper management and then back down again and released in a way that they're not timed with certain releases and certain sentiment. So like, let's say they had a nerf coming out and the sentiment was low, you don't want to then drop the nerf like they did the other day with the article, the sandbox article before the good twig, and then they have a good twig, but now today they have a terrible launch. So it's like they always do that. That is just like perfect Bungie fashion. They're as consistent as the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to disappointment, right? Like they have a good season and then no matter what, they fail in the playoffs or they don't even make the playoffs. And by the way, my family grew up watching the Cowboys, so I'm a captive audience in that. But that's just like a great example of Bungie. Bungie is basically that. Like Bungie always finds a way to get themselves like hyped up in the limelight, like this is happening, and then when it actually does happen, they fall flat when it's important, when it matters, and that hurts their long-term success. And even though the Dallas Cowboys are like the most expensive franchise in football and like America's team and all of that, they still haven't won nothing. I feel like that same way is happening to Bungie, where they are a huge game studio, a lot of accolades, but they just can't get a W. They can't keep a W. Like for whatever reason, if they find out that they're winning too hard, they're over delivering, quote unquote over delivering. Here's another one of Justin already shoot himself in the foot. He's barely been in a couple of weeks and he couldn't have seen this coming. Like he's been there a long time. Like he's literally been there. It's not like this guy just came in from the outside. Like he's literally been there in the background the whole time, and he's on the engineering side. So how do you not know that this is going to happen at launch? Like who tests their games? You know what I mean? Like who runs these tests? Like can't you just have somebody play the live environment the day before it launches and just verify that everything's good? Like nobody's going to sit there and be like, I got a +1 at 450. What's wrong? And then try all the other things and like, oh, everything's giving me +1. Oh, okay, yeah, let's ship it. Like, you know what I mean? So again, it's what's really improved when it comes to the people making decisions and the people not. Like they need to really rein that in, and they need to remove the people who are currently making the key critical decisions from their positions. You don't have to fire them, just move them someplace else where their talents are needed, and bring in people with fresh ideas and are also more tedious and more rigorous in their approach and in their process, because something like this just cannot happen. Like, you cannot launch an entire 3-month long update that's supposed to sustain the game through to the next major expansion essentially, and have it be broken in such a way that who's going to want to play that? If this was in the TWAB, this would be the most unappealing TWAB ever. Like, hey, by the way, guys, we noticed that the grind was happening too fast, so no matter what you play, everything is +1. Good luck. Now you can play together again, because it doesn't matter what you play, you're only going to get +1. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how the TWAB would have come out if this was like a legit change that they intended to do. So again, it just unacceptable, unnecessary. Like, I'm gonna keep saying it, and I apologize to you guys if you're still watching this in my rant through to the end, that it's just astonishing to me that they did this. And then, too, to like look at the live stream and how they ended it, and they look at both of them, Robbie and Dylan, look at the camera and say, hey, we've heard your feedback and we're listening.
But yeah, we'll be as transparent as possible with you. So to really end it and get into the awesome Ash and Iron content. Thank you again to everybody that's been giving us feedback. Thank you to everybody that's been playing and diving into all the changes. We know some need work, and we're going to be doing that. We've been listening, and now we're getting through the planning stages, and we're executing on a bunch of changes over the next few updates and beyond Renegades.
And it's clear that they are actually like engaging with what we're saying, but it's still not making its way into the game in a quick enough pace. Like, you're in crunch time, you need to execute, and this failure to execute with Ash and Iron is possibly the death knell. Like, who's going to be around for Renegades in 3 months if this is so poor and it takes them longer than a day to fix the power grind? Because if tomorrow I get on and I'm Destiny 2 team still, where right now 4 p.m. and I'm Central Time, game resets at noon for me, so we're 4 hours in to this new update with a broken system that is intrinsic to the entire game, and the game has not been brought offline to be fixed. I don't see any updates from Destiny 2 team on Twitter. As of right now, the most recent post is them talking about ornaments that can't be equipped because they're causing people to crash, talking about people soft locking themselves in Reclaim, talking about the hollow foil versions of weapons crashing Xbox players. Like, that's their priority when the game is pretty much unplayable when it comes to fun and it comes to engagement. Like, nobody wants to sit and grind Reclaim over and over again for tier 3s when we were just getting tier 4s days ago, or tier 5, sorry, days ago. During Solstice, we were getting tier 5s early before that. So it's like, you're going to go from reigning tier 5s in Solstice to grinding hard but still getting tier 5s at 450, still getting good loot. And the only good shining object that I have is the exotic pulse rifle. The exotic rocket pulse rifle is fun to use, but it's still just like a side grade from my mint. My mint has bait and switch and rewind rounds on it, and I can just blast away at stuff. And yes, the other one, I can do the little reload and do the explosion of the micro missile attachments, but it's a little unwieldy because sometimes you want to reload, you have to go into the alternate fire and then reload again, which seems like you would think it would make sense, whoever designed the weapon, that when you do the alternate fire button, it just reloads automatically. Like, it should be like, if your little missiles do damage to something during the alt fire reload, then it reloads missiles back into your gun. Like, that would have been a nice little game loop. You fire off your shots, you do your little explosion with the alt fire, and then you go back and you have ammo back in the gun. Like, that would have been sick. Like, that's a cool exotic. And maybe the catalyst for it will do that. I don't know. I don't have a catalyst yet, and I haven't even looked into it. That would be cool if that's the case. Yeah, okay, that would take it over the top, and that would make it useful over Mint Retrograde in my gear slot that it's in. But right now, it's even with Mint Retrograde for me, and it's a legendary versus an exotic, and the legendary is on the level of the exotic, and that's usually not a good way to launch something. So just all around, misses all around for Ash and Iron for me. Not a fan of the Reclaim, the way that they did it. Plaguelands is too small. It's samey. Everything feels the same. Stand in a plate, kill stuff, dunk data. Like I said, I had a bugged encounter in Reclaim where a Goblin kept spawning over and over again and giving me the same piece of data to put back into the pylon, and it wasn't opening the crate, and I just had to run across and do the other encounter with a giant harpy over there, or not giant harpy, but a giant wyvern over there who was trying to wreck me. How they do their super shotgun blast. And since it's a high level difficulty, it starts doing it at rapid fire. Like, here I've got the Unwavering Duty with Rampage and Onslaught, and he's got his little shotgun, and we're back and forth firing at each other. I'm firing bullets as fast as he's firing those purple things. But I've got my gun spun up by killing enemies, and he just has that as default apparently. So really the difficulty deltas are also like a little screwed up with Ashen Iron too. Just the way that it feels right now, like trying to get power at 450, kind of feels like when you first get in at 400. But the difference is when you first hit 400, you can still run Masters, and you can still get A's in Masters, and you could have still got +3s. Right now, just to get a +1, you've got to get a B+. And to get a B+, you got to put a lot of modifiers on there. So the game doesn't feel good at all. I'm gonna just chill for the day. I was planning on making a bunch of Destiny videos today, right, of the new Reclaim, getting excited, the new weapons, the new exotic, but this is just really deflating. The live stream was really deflating, and I hope that my negativity doesn't rub off on anybody who's actually enjoying these activities. If you're enjoying the activity, great. I'm happy for you. Knock out those +1 drops until they fix it, and you'll have a little bit of a head start. But like I said, I'm just going to chill and wait until they respond and actually fix this issue with the loot drops. And then I'll be happy to jump back in, catch back up, try to get myself to 500 to see what the ultimatum mode looks like, or the ultimate mode looks like. And then I'll give you guys the Guardian Ranks video for that, and the Guardian Ranks video for Guardian Ranks 11, which I have a sneaky suspicion that it's just like one thing. It's just get to 550, and that's all you have to do for Guardian Ranks 11. But we'll see. Thanks very much for watching this video to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.